Hi, this is Julie Schrum. Thank you for watching my video on reporting suspected abuse and neglect within the public school system. I chose this topic because I work in an elementary school, and this is an issue that, unfortunately, I have had to be involved in more than one time. So we'll begin by talking about what exactly abuse is. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, abuse as a noun is physical maltreatment, as in number 5. But also pay attention to number 4. It can also be language, so there can be verbal abuse as well as physical abuse. Merriam-Webster's dictionary also defines it as a verb, which is to attack in words. Again, that verbal abuse. And then number 3, to use so as to injure or damage. So that physical component plays in again. Simple definitions are to treat someone in a harsh or harmful way and to cause damage. And it's wrong. According to the dictionary, it's wrong. Neglect, as opposed to abuse, is to fail to take care of something or to give attention. Just simply ignoring for extended periods of time in a pattern repeatedly can be thought of as neglect. And that is something we need to take into consideration, is that as we discuss abuse and neglect, this falls within a continuum, and everything here, there's going to be moments when it is considered good parenting practice, and then there will be moments when it swings to that other end of the continuum and is considered neglect. Okay, so to give little attention or to disrespect is another way to define neglect. So different types of abuse. The first type would be physical abuse, which is to inflict physical pain or harm. But note the part where it talks about it has to be the cause of the child's deterioration, where the child's health is actually endangered. That is according to Kansas state law. Sexual abuse is, again, what you would think of, but sexual abuse on its own is for the sexual stimulation of the perpetrator. Sexual exploitation, however, is when the child is bribed in some way. This may be making them feel guilty or fearful, or it may be offering them something. And of course, human trafficking is also a form of sexual abuse. Emotional abuse is the infliction of mental harm, where the child is unsure about something, is fearful, is being bullied actually by their caregiver. And it goes to the point of interfering with the child's social or intellectual functioning. So there again, it could be terrorizing the child, emotionally abandoning the child. The child's fearful about whether or not the parent will be home, fearful about whether or not they are going to have supper made for them, be able to be in their home, be able to be in their bedroom. Or corrupting a child. This would be where you have the child go and deliver drugs for you, or go pick up money for you that you have gained. Or I shouldn't say you, the parent has the child do this, or pick up money that the parent has gained unlawfully. So they are corrupting the child, exposing the child, forcing the child, coercing the child to do something illegal. Neglect, physical neglect, is not meeting that child's needs with food, clothing, shelter, to the point that the child's health is put in danger. I have had a lot of children steal, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have had several children over the years steal food from me, sneak extra hats or gloves that I keep in the classroom home with them. All of these are signs that they're not having those types of needs met in the home. Medical neglect, they're actually the parents who legitimately follow a religion that does not allow for medical intervention are not held accountable for medical neglect. They are allowed to not provide that medical treatment, but all other parents are required by law to provide the medical treatment their child needs to grow, be pain-free, to be healthy. Lack of supervision, again, taking this in a continuum, but because there are all times we leave our children alone for a few minutes. But this also has to be considered as far as age and developmental level of the child. Um, Leaving a young child alone for hours on end is going to be a lack of supervision, whereas you leave an older child alone for 10 minutes while you run to the store, maybe not. And then, of course, there's abandonment, where the child is just completely abandoned. Kansas has a state requirement, a state law that requires teachers to report suspected abuse or neglect. It can be done directly to the Secretary of your Social and Rehabilitation Services, which is SRS. It does not have to be in the form of a written report. However, SRS later, when they go to do the investigation, will probably require a written report at that point in time. Because this is required of teachers, we have immunity. Teachers, administrators, school personnel in general have immunity if after an SRS investigation or a law enforcement investigation, the caregivers are found to be innocent. Teachers cannot be held liable in any way for that report as long as it was not done intentionally and with malice against the caregiver. Failure to report, actually, teachers can be held legally accountable for not reporting. If a child is found through an SRS or a law investigation to be abused or neglected, and it is within reasonable belief that the teacher should have been aware of this, the teacher can be charged with a Class B misdemeanor, which can include up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. Most school districts have a policy in place for reporting suspected abuse or neglect. My school has one in place. The teacher will talk with the school principal or administrator, and the school nurse is also called in so that the teacher has this particular child's history and concerns documented. The principal, of course, as the administrator, is going to be held liable for the legal end of things, but they also have the perspective of history. If there are other siblings in the school or have been in the school before, there can be a history with those parents, or if there's a pattern with other children that have made people suspectful of this very same thing, the principal will have that perspective. And of course, the school nurse will have the training to observe and know the difference between an accident and abuse. School personnel have that responsibility to keep their kids safe, and they also have the responsibility to help kids learn at their highest level. Kids who are being abused and neglected are too concerned with what's happening at home to be free to really listen and learn at a educational way. And so administrators, school personnel have to make sure these kids are safe so that they can learn within the school setting. Teachers see and interact with students on a daily basis, which is why they are held responsible for reporting this. They're in a very unique position to pick up on the pattern of abuse, seeing it over and over again, seeing new bruises before old ones have healed, seeing bruises in the shape of a belt buckle or the sole of a shoe, in places that accidents are very unlikely to happen, such as the inside of the upper arm, the stomach, the back of the thighs, are very unlikely locations for accidental injuries. Or the knees, hands, that's where forehead, kids fall and bump those. That is more indicative of an accident. And finally, you have to consider, does the student display behaviors consistent with a child suffering from abuse? Sexually abused children tend to be more promiscuous, tend to have more sexual knowledge than other children of their age. They also can be fearful. Emotional kids can have attachment issues. And so being aware of the behaviors that coexist with abuse is important and a factor to be considered. And most importantly, we as educators, no matter what your role is, from cook to bus driver to janitor to teacher to administrator, we have to be their voice. These young children don't have the ability to speak out and say they're being abused. So if they trust an administrator or a classroom teacher enough to open up to us, we have to get them help. We have to be their voice in their world and let them have the chance to grow up in an environment that will be safe and healthy and productive in their lives. So these are the resources I used in making this presentation. Nathan Essex's book, A Teacher's Pocket Guide to School Law, which is published by Pearson. I also used a guide to reporting child abuse and neglect in Kansas, which is put out by Kansas Children's Service League and Kansas Department for Children and Families. Thank you for your time.